Science history, unraveling the mystery that all started with a big bang.
Looks like Chuck Lorre had a great time at Comic-Con. Wish I could go. Carl the Rooster. The day Carl was made henhouse rooster had to be the proudest day of his life. Oh, how he strutted and preened outside the little hut where all the chickens lived. From the corner of his eye he could see them nervously peeking out to see the new cook of the walk. You could hardly blame him for smiling so smugly. He knew that from that moment on, if a chicken wanted extra feed, well, she had to ask Carl. Same thing for pecking privileges in the yard. And of course, when it came time to lay eggs, the premium spots nearest the warming lamps were handed out by you-know-who. Yep, life was good for old Carl. Up at dawn, a loud clearing of the throat, a largely ceremonial patrol of the perimeter, and then, an afternoon and evening of doling out favors to the chickens. And the best part about it was he never had to actually ask for anything in return. He would simply tell each chicken to decide for herself what, if anything, she should give him to ensure his continued friendship. But let me tell you, it's no accident he named his rooster hut Casa Quid Pro Quo. Yep, Carl had it knocked. At least until he was forced out of his job by a class action paternity suit that was entirely without merit and probably politically motivated by bitter, eggless chickens. Fashion trends. Dead is the new unambiguous, bipolar is the new undecided, heavily armed is the new born again, bald is the new head, and the new crotch, hairy is the new face, sheepishly admitting to having an STD is the new flirting, puerile is the new face of fear, finding the time that's right for you is the new impotence, the smiley face emoticon is the new sincerely yours, smoking is the new outdoorsy lifestyle. Looking forward to insanely expensive private schooling, $1,000 a week nannies and soccer is the new yuppie birth control, misinformed is the new patriotic, veganism is the new tastes like chicken, serotonin uptake inhibiting is the new crowd control, texting is the new talking, talking is the new singing, singing is the new hubris, gay marriage is the new be careful what you wish for, and finally, and only because I really need this to catch on, 57 years old is the new 45. As best as I can tell, life is intolerable. Oh, not always, of course. A case can be made for all the big wonders and little blessings and blah blah blah. But when you really boil it down, our entire existence rests on a few really ugly premises. First, life, and by that I mean the big life with a capital L, must ingest other life in order for it to remain life. Or put another way, in order to witness the miracle of creation, we must continually eat, and then poop out, a little bit of that miracle. Second, one of the charming side effects of sentient life is emotional pain. The fact that dead and fermenting plant life creates alcohol, a terrific anesthetic for emotional pain, might cause one to think that this is, by nature, a compassionate universe. Think again, keep dulling that pain with booze and you wind up, if you're lucky, in a church basement sharing your tears with complete strangers. If you're not lucky, you wind up on a waiting list for a motorcyclist's liver. And finally, there is the ever-present knowledge of death. In order to more fully appreciate the gift of life, we all get to ponder a violently sudden or slow and agonizingly painful descent into oblivion, after which our beloved bodies turn into the stuff of nightmares. Which brings me back to my original premise. Life is intolerable. But rather than go gently into that creepy night, I've decided to start a petition to protest the fundamental conditions of existence. I know it's not much, but it's a start. And damn it, I'm just the guy to do it. The petition is available at chucklorre.com. Sign on now and make your voice heard before you are dead and your vocal cords are being eaten by a swarm of disgusting bugs. Me, I believe that watching tonight's show might constitute a spiritual experience. You, that's a pretty bold statement. How do you figure? Me, glad you asked. Since the concept of past and future is entirely man-made, ask any other living creature about past and future and all you'll get is a dumb, non-comprehending stare. Then it follows that if there is a God, a unifying spirit of the universe, be it intelligent or simply a pervasively unifying quantum particle sort of deal, then the present, the constantly unfolding now, is the only possible place it can exist. Which brings me to my bold assertion. If you laughed at any time during tonight's show, you had to be paying attention. If you were paying attention, it means you were, for that moment, in the now, the same place as the previously mentioned pervasive, unifying quantum particle we, as a species, enjoy worshipping and committing genocide over. Ergo you had a spiritual experience. You, assuming you're right, so what? Me, so what? This is huge. If a simple sitcom can lead to communion with the eternal, then I can make a case for my work having religious significance. Next step, the Church of Chuckology and a tax break. Or maybe even a sleepy little burg in Florida I can call my own. Your light was on. This is the official I have nothing worth writing about Vanity card. It will run whenever I have nothing worth writing about. Don't be surprised to see it quite a bit. From now on, when our schedule requires me to deliver a new card and I'm empty, I'll simply say, run 111. A check of the 110 cards I've already written will quickly demonstrate that I should have written this card a long time ago. Why didn't I? Vanity. I had become vain about my vanity cards. I was determined to write a new one each week because, well, I'm just that kind of guy. But I'm older and wiser now. I know when I have nothing to say. And that knowledge is freedom. Freedom from the constant need to win your approval. And more importantly, freedom from the obsessive and relentless need to end each vanity card on a joke. Glenn Beck is sober. Last weekend I went on a movie date with a very nice lady. During the coming attractions I managed to get a piece of popcorn down the wrong pipe. I started coughing. People nearby glanced at me nervously. Then, as the movie was about to begin, I got a tickle in my nose and sneezed, twice. The young couple sitting to my left immediately got up and moved across the aisle. The old lady directly in front of me leapt to her feet and literally vaulted over her husband in order to sit further away from me. For some reason, I was a little miffed. But then I realized the newfound power I had. I got up, crossed closer to the old lady and young couple and coughed again. They all glared at me and once again moved their seats. The game was on. Maneuvering like a knight on a chessboard, I countered their move by moving 2 rows down and 1 seat over. I looked at them, I smiled, I coughed. They were stunned. How could this be happening? How had their simple movie outing turned into an Edgar Allan Poe short story? But it had. In a matter of minutes, they had become Prince Prospero and his noble cohorts while I had become the Red Death. The old woman covered her mouth and nose with her hand and cried out, "Why are you doing this to us?" I laughed and said, "Why? You want to know why? Because death, my dear woman, is the inevitable end for us all. And there is no hiding from it, even at the AMC." A horrible silence hung over the theater. No one moved, no one breathed. Then the movie started and we all settled down to enjoy the wacky, 3D antics of Jim Carrey. Oh, and I'm hoping to go out with the nice lady again, but she has not returned my calls. I have long believed that part of our problem with resolving race issues in America is our inability to accurately name what we are. Aside from the occasional Johnny and Edgar Winter, there are no white people. Any child with a box of crayons can tell you that white people are, in fact, beige. The sickly ones are grey. Following this crayon logic, one can easily see that there are really no black people. They are brown, or perhaps raw umber, or maybe burnt sienna. Frankly, every time I hear someone comment on America's first black president, I can't help thinking, no, he's not, he's more like caramel. Which is why I think we should all get in the habit of calling each other what we really are. How can you racially slur a man by calling him beige or umber? The answer is you can't. Because that's exactly what he is. The melanin doesn't lie. Buy a box of Crayolas and see for yourself. We are all members of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Can I hear a kumbaya? Jillian had a urinary tract infection, again. That sentence appeared in my head a few days ago, just as you see it above. I have no idea what it means, other than the obvious, and I don't know anyone named Jillian. Regardless, I thought it'd be interesting to begin a vanity card with it and just see where it goes. Jillian had a urinary tract infection, again. Her doctor liked to abbreviate the condition to UTI. She liked to abbreviate it to TMH, too much umping. Regardless, the road back to vaginal happiness was always the same. Cranberry juice and abstinence. Thankfully, her boyfriend, Dudley, was always very understanding. He'd just smile, hold her in his arms and say, "Well babe, when one door closes, another one opens up." She'd always giggle and blush when he'd say that, but deep down she wished she had the courage to cover his mouth and nose with a chloroform-soaked rag, and then, while he was unconscious, snip off his testicles with the little scissors she uses to groom her schnauzer. All of which explains why the next sentence popped into my head recently. Nobody sang Bee Gees songs on karaoke night like Dudley. Is this a great world or what? Happy holidays, from Chuck Lorre. I am writing this vanity card from deep in the jungles of Borneo. The heat is oppressive, the mosquitoes are relentless, and the natives are hungry for meat, American meat. Specifically, ground chuck. What was I thinking coming here for my ex-Moz break? What insanity led me to this godforsaken hell? Oh, how I wish I were back in Burbank. Oh, Burbank, Burbank, Burbank. Forgive me for not seeing your beauty when you thrust it in my face. But now that matters not. Or, that matters not now. Either way, my time is running short. Funny how your perspective changes when the end is near. Being overlooked by the Golden Globes, yet again, seems so unimportant to me now. The fact that one of the natives about to eat me is a freelance showbiz reporter for the Kota Kinabalu Daily Bugle and a voting member of the Hollywood Foreign Press even provides me with some comfort. For as I close my eyes on this world, I'll at least know that while I may not be to everyone's taste as television, if sautéed with butter and lemon, I will be to everyone's taste as lunch. I have coined a new word which I'm hoping will catch on. The word is fuv. Fuv came about due to my frustration with the phrase, making love, specifically its inability to capture the wonderfully lusty, grunting nature of the act. I was also unsatisfied with the monosyllabic Anglo-Saxon word commonly used to describe intercourse. That word failed miserably at describing the deep spiritual and emotional bonding that can occur during sex. But now with my new word, couples engaged in the most intimate of human activities can look into one another's eyes, assuming they're facing one another, and whisper the simple, all-encapsulating phrase, I fuv you. And yes, they can do all that while listening to my new album of remakes of classic pop hits, including If Fuving You Is Wrong, I Don't Wanna Be Right, I Feel Like Making Fuv, and the immortal Come Rain or Come Shine featuring the lyric, I'm gonna fuv you, like nobody is fooved you. Ask Chuck, Dear Chuck, at a recent dinner party, I found myself in an awkward situation when the host, a devout atheist, sneezed between spoonfuls of his gazpacho. Without thinking, I said, God bless you. He gave me a withering look and said, as if to a child, golly gee, I sure hope he does. The other guests exploded with laughter, while I imploded with humiliation. To avoid future embarrassment, what is the correct response when an atheist sneezes? Troubled with Archu, they're troubled. First, a little background information. Saying God bless you following a sneeze is thought by some to have originated in the 6th century in order to protect the sneezer from falling ill to the bubonic plague. Another possible origin is that people once believed that the devil entered the body during a sneeze and saying God bless you could help ward him off. Since the plague has killed something like 200 million people and the words God bless you have, in all likelihood, been said countless times to Glenn Beck, we can safely assume the phrase has no real power against germs or demonic possession. What it does contain is simple human courtesy, a means by which we express concern for one another. As to how to respond to a sneezing atheist, well, that's easy. Simply say, sounds like you are coming down with something, I hope you don't die and rot in a box. Belarus is a small, landlocked country next door to Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania and Poland. According to Wikipedia, one of its major exports is cattle byproducts. Which begs the question, what horrible shape are the cattle in, if all they're good for is felt hats and wallpaper paste? But Belarus does have a bustling TV production industry. One of their most recent hits is a sitcom about 4 nerdy scientists who live next door to a beautiful blonde waitress. The characters are named Sheldon, Leo, Harvard, Raj and Natasha, and the show is entitled, The Theorists. Each episode begins with a rapid-fire montage of images which takes us from the dawn of time to the present moment. Keeping with that theme, the montage is scored with what is probably the worst piece of recorded pop music since the dawn of time. And finally, each episode appears to be a Russian translation of a Big Bang Theory episode. When we brought this to the attention of the Warner Brothers legal department, we were told that it's next to impossible to sue for copyright infringement in Belarus because the TV production company that is ripping us off is owned and operated by the government of Belarus. Having no other recourse, I'm hoping that this vanity card will be read by the fine folks making The Theorists, and, racked with guilt, they break down and send us some felt hats. The Kyrgyzstan version of Dharma and Greg already sent me some wallpaper paste. I worked for Stan Lee 25 years ago at Marvel Animation in Los Angeles. My favorite memory is sitting in his office with the legendary Johnny Carson writer, Bob Smith. We were discussing an animated series featuring Rodney Dangerfield as a dog that got no respect. Bob was the actual brains behind the project. I was just hanging around hoping to be included. Anyway, the meeting was going along nicely. The idea of creating an unloved mutt modeled on Rodney seemed both poignant and hilarious. Then Stan rose from the throne-like seat behind his desk and said, "What this project needs is a real comedy writer." I looked over at Bob, one of the whitest guys you've ever seen, and watched him get even whiter. I glanced down and saw his fists skull into bloodless mallets. A cold, eerie silence filled the room. It felt as if time had stopped. I remember thinking I'm about to see a legendary Johnny Carson writer kill the guy who invented Spider-Man, and then the oddest thing happened. Bob smiled and said, "Yeah, Stan, that's what it needs, a real comedy writer." Stan was happy to be agreed with. The clock started ticking again. The atmosphere returned to normal. Bob and I left the office. Stan never had a clue. When I told him this story on the set of The Big Bang Theory, he jokingly said, "So, you're still not a real comedy writer." We both laughed. It was funny, but I'm still gonna sick Bob Smith on his wrinkled old ass. You know you are getting old when you throw your back out on the toilet, you shave your ears, your second wife calls your first wife ma'am, you are genuinely excited when your prescriptions arrive in the mail, you read the obits in the newspaper to check the ages of the dead people, you read a newspaper, you are bummed out that the smoking hot chick from Body Heat now looks like William Shatner in drag, you say bummed out, women your age have real breasts and artificial hips, masturbation leaves you winded, you try to amuse the kid hooking up your Blu-ray player by telling him about Betamax, you pee in Morse code beep beep dots and dashes, and have to look down to see when you are done. Your car radio is set to classic rock so you have something to switch to during NPR pledge drives. Your doctor says things like, "That's normal for a man your age and consider yourself lucky." Beneath your chin is what appears to be a neckskin hammock. Beneath your penis is what appears to be two ping pong balls hanging from a flesh-colored bolo tie. You choose your new car because it offers great lumbar support and convenient cup holders. Watching The Who perform at the Super Bowl made you inconsolably sad. You wonder if the orgasm you're about to have will actually end your life. Your doctor tells you a new medication will reduce the amount of semen in your body and your only response is, "So what?" Your car radio is set to classic rock so you have something to, "Oh wait, I already did that one." We are often accused of using a laugh machine on The Big Bang Theory. This is our laugh machine. 2010 Census. 1. How many people were living or staying in this house, apartment or mobile home on April 1, 2010? Well, after a difficult divorce and several failed attempts at a meaningful relationship, I guess the answer is 1. One lonely, middle-aged guy. But I shouldn't get too down on myself, I mean, at least I'm trying. At least my intentions are good. Well, mostly good. I am guilty of what I call self-righteous self-centeredness. You know, that workaholic syndrome which requires everyone to adapt to my very pressing needs, rather than being available to theirs. In fact, that actually might be the core of the problem. That, or my compulsive desire to make women happy, which, no surprise, stems from a deep fear that unless I'm perfect, they'll leave me. Oh, and they sure let you know when you are not perfect. They don't mince words when you fail to live up to their expectations. You hear about it. Or worse, you don't hear about it and then have to deal with their subliminal rage that you're not healing their deep-seated daddy wound. But that's beside the point. Bottom line, one person lives here. There, you happy US Department of Commerce Economics and Statistics Administration, US Census Bureau. Anything else you want to know? 2. Were there any additional people staying here that you did not include in question 1? I already told you, I'm alone. What is with you people? Why do you keep taunting me? Haven't I suffered enough? The sitcom writer's prayer. Lord, if it be thy will, give unto us a story that has lots of comic potential while simultaneously exploring and defining our characters and their relationships, preferably something that hasn't been done on Ick Van Dyke or Friends. If in thine infinite wisdom, the story you provide us is over the top, please help us convince ourselves that we are creating a classic fast so we can look our actors in the eye and explain, with face straight, that jumping the shark is how we demonstrate our love for you. Also make us into a channel through which true and honestly funny dialogue flows to our principal, supporting and guest characters. If on the day of judgment, thy heavenly words elicit silence from the studio audience, relieve us of our suffering, O divine master, by giving us the strength to tell our friends and family that we are doing a dramedy. Finally, Lord, we call on your infinite mercy, praying that you forgiven our many network sins, most notably Lenny and Squig style smash cut jokes, and that after we are brought low by the Nielsen Knights, you lift us up and lead us into the valley of high concept, vaguely sentimental films like thou didst with thine exalted emissary, Judd of Apatow. Amen. Oh, couple more things. May our directors someday figure out a way to start a restaurant scene that does not require a waiter to walk across the room, and may all those internet residuals we fought for during the last strike start rolling in. Amen. Redux. In public bathrooms I will sometimes use the children's urinal in order to feel like a giant. If no one's around, I'm likely to sing along with Aretha Franklin's version of You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, but not the karaoke version. I've never understood why anyone would bother making a porn movie that lasts longer than 10 minutes. I often pretend that the person standing next to me in an elevator is an unwitting carrier of a deadly airborne disease unleashed by terrorists who hate our freedom. This, of course, forces me to hold my breath until the doors open. 40 years ago I measured my penis with a wood ruler. The irony was lost on me. Sometimes sex just seems like a lot of work. There are mornings when for no perceivable reason, I turn into a teenage girl and repeatedly change my outfit. I floss so that my dentist will be proud of me. Even when asked, I have never been able to talk dirty to a woman without feeling like a complete idiot. My one attempt at manscaping ended in bloodshed. Censored. Apparently, it's okay to show brutal violence in graphic, vomit your Jenny Craig dinner up into your mouth detail on a forensic cop show, but it's unacceptable to write about it with a little whimsy. As always, you can read the offending material on my website, chucklorre.com. Frankly, I think you'll be disappointed. We found this hidden gem. There's a part of me that yearns to explore the darkness and tragedy of our lives without resorting to jokes that lighten or distract from the fundamental horror of the human condition. Fear, brutality, greed, rage, stupidity, lust, pride, grief, insanity, betrayal. These are but a few of the words we use to describe the ugliness that hides in all of our hearts. But how have I, as a comedy writer, used them? Certainly not to peel away the thin veil of civility that masks the rotting soul sickness that eats at us from within. No. Whenever I attempt to illuminate the pain of our existence, something like this comes out. Filled with grief and rage over her husband's betrayal, Lorre set his balls on fire then pled insanity. You see my dilemma. Even when I use the appropriate words, my instinct is always to undercut the dramatic. In the above case, with the ludicrous image of fiery testicles. How then shall I write about the harsh reality that is our daily life? The madness and cruelty which assaults us from cradle to grave. I've come to believe that my only hope is to embrace the comedic undercut and then go a step further. In other words, no matter how frightening, I must dive into the nightmare. I must not flinch from the horror. Filled with grief and rage over her husband's betrayal, Lorre set his balls on fire and then proudly watched as the flames, fueled by a peach-flavored lubricant, leapt to his condom-clad member. She would later plead insanity, but at the moment she was amused to see that ribbed for her pleasure latex burns like a son of a bitch. Nope, still not right. Over the years, CBS executives have always been very generous when it comes to sharing their ideas as to how I might better do my job. I have never returned the favor regarding how they might run their network. Until now. Now I have a really good idea. Step 1. Create an internal division with workers who do nothing but check out the claims of prospective advertisers. And I mean really check them out. If it's a car, have somebody drive it around to see if it accelerates into walls or slow-moving pedestrians for no particular reason. If it's beer, have someone drink it and report back if it gets them laid. If it's a pill, have someone take it for a while, then wait to see if they grow a tail, get anal leakage, or commit suicide. Step 2. Quality control. All commercials must be aesthetically pleasing, seriously funny, poignant, or dramatic. Any commercials deemed loud, stupid, and/or obnoxious are not aired. Period. No exceptions. Step 3. Tell the world that CBS only airs the coolest and most honest commercials. It's always Super Bowl Sunday at CBS. Step 4. Watch the money roll in. A final thought, don't worry about the initial loss of income created by dropping the dumb stuff, i.e. cockney lizards who sell insurance. You'll more than make that money back by demanding that your high-quality advertisers cut you in for a piece of their action. You have, after all, earned it by giving them the CBS seal of approval. Another final thought. If you adopt my idea, my consulting fee is 1 million shares of CBS stock. Or better yet, 100 shares of Apple stock.